It's Clifford Mark, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the mountains and the symbols of mountains in the New Testament and the Old Testament, and how it relates to the New Covenant versus the Old Covenant, how it relates to keeping the law versus having righteousness given to you as a gift of God. Basically, we're going to start our story out with one of the most interesting things Jesus said. Jesus said, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you'll be able to move a mountain. Now, what he was meaning by this has always been sort of, debated, if you will. But he basically said you can tell that mountain to get out of your way and be thrown in the water. So, the mountain he's talking about is Mount Sinai. He's talking about the law. And there's a little bit more evidence to this later, but basically he's saying if you believe that your righteousness has been given to you as a gift from God through my sacrifice on the cross, that I took punishment for your sins on the cross, and that you're now forgiven and freed and allowed into heaven, that you don't have to keep the law anymore. It'll be written on your heart, it says, but it won't be kept for you anymore. So it's a very interesting point. And I can back it up. Later in the New Testament, and I think in a few parts of the Old Testament, I'll have to put those up as notes on gospelofgrace.org, it describes how Mount Zion is where God is going to be. And it says the Jews are going to look for me on Mount Sinai, and I won't be there anymore. I'm going to be on Mount Zion. So Mount Zion represents unearned righteousness. Righteousness has been given to you by Jesus' work. Mount Sinai represents the Ten Commandments. That's where Moses came down with the Ten Commandments, and as soon as Moses came down and talked to the people about the Ten Commandments, many of them died. It's very interesting. No one died up until that point. After he brought the Ten Commandments, many of them died. And it's also interesting to note, Moses knew the power of the law, and he wasn't really super excited about it, if you will. He saw the people the first time he came down. He actually came down the mountain twice. There were two sets of tablets. They both had the same stuff on them, but there were two sets of Ten Commandments on four different tablets. The first two he broke. He saw what the people were doing, and he broke them. He threw them on the ground. And it's interesting because he goes back up and he talks to God on Mount Zion, or Mount Sinai, I'm sorry. And God's not even mad at him. Like, he's not like upset with him for breaking these tablets. He just gives him two new tablets. So the power of the law, if you're under law, it's really death. I hate to say it. They show us God's holiness, but it's a standard that we really can't attain as people. Mount Zion, though, is something we can attain. And it's basically saying that your righteousness is given to you by Jesus' sacrifice on the cross, and that God sees you as righteous vis-a-vis his Son, who is now the high priest. I'll go into this in a few more different videos. I'm not sure I'm going to use this video, but I'll go into it in a few more videos. All right, guys, have a good one. Bye.